Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside Out Smile. I'm your host, Dr. Amber Q, and today I'd like to share a little story, something that happened quite recently. Now, of course, I need to give you a bit of background. So the background is Instagram. If you've listened to other episodes, you would have heard me speaking about my Instagram friends. But these are friends that there's several friends on there that, and I like to call them friends, that I've met in real life. So there are a couple of people that I've actually met in real life. There are a couple that we've sort of spoken, kind of off platform. And it's just wonderful. There's so many amazing people in the world. And funnily enough, even sort of on my entrepreneurial journey, I met so many amazing people, some strange people, but also so many amazing people, which is wonderful. So the other day, I was speaking with, excuse me, got a frog in my throat. I was speaking with my Texan friend. So quite often my bestie and I, we have a chat, we have a chat when we're sort of walking along. Well, when I'm walking along the common or she's biking or something. She does a lot of riding. She's very sporty. It's funny, actually, my friends are more sporty than I am, but I need to get more active. Anyway, I digress. So I was walking on the common and this lovely dog came over to say hello, essentially. The poor little thing I say poor little thing, he was obviously loved, he or she, but had a cone. So he'd obviously had either some injury or surgery. Anyway, he or she just wandered over to me to say hello. And, dogs are just lovely, aren't they? And they come over, and it was Pot Poodle. And the dog was just like, hey, look at me, I've got a cone on my head. And so the owner was adorable as well, this lady. And we ended up talking, and yes, her dog had some treatment at the vet, and it was so interesting. And she was telling me about the tension with her husband, because she was saying, oh my God, have you done this with the dog, etc., and they were both fussing over the dog, essentially. And it was really interesting because we ended up speaking about vets, and I was telling her basically about my old vet, one of my old vets at the practice that I used to use, who has an independent practice, and she's amazing. So I was recommending that practice because this lady used a corporate vet. And I also mentioned some of my Instagram friends, and I was telling her about the different Instagram friends and how they could help her, because a lot of my Instagram friends are doggy friends. And so it was just such a really, it was a beautiful day. It was sunny. It was just such a lovely conversation. I had apologized to my Texan friend, and she was like, fine. And we both have this where when we're chatting away, sometimes we bump into neighbors and things. And so I think she was basically still on the line. But the funny thing is that, so we had this brief chat, this lady and I, about sort of vets, and she was saying how the vet she attended, it did feel much more how do I put this politely? It seemed much more kind of focused around money and how much things would cost. And I think they'd been to another vet as an emergency, and that vet possibly had been an independent vet, or it was an independent emergency practice or something, and which is why I ended up recommending my vet, who also is an independent practice. And of course, I was just discussing, I have my dentistry done at an independent practice as well, which is a friend of mine, and they are amazing. And so the interesting thing is that we were just speaking about different facets in life. I was saying whatever profession you're in, it's so good to have independent care if you can, whether it's a plumber, etc. But obviously there can be people that are not so great, but lots of great independents as well. But generally, of course, independents, if they are genuine, they are going to be much more focused, I feel, on quality and, generally speaking. And so we were having a chat about that, a chat about the personal touch and genuine care. And I think that it's really funny the way this applies to so many things in life. So the lady and I had this chat, and then again, I apologized to my Texan friend as we said goodbye. And she was kind of like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is your calling in life. And it was so funny because, it's just, my friend is amazing with people as well. But it's funny, it's all my friends are people who are really great with people. And it's like this invisible thread that ties us together, and it's because I always say that all my friends, we're all fixers because we all come from a place of empathy, and a lot of my friends are health professionals. And we all come from a place of empathy and we all love each other. And it's just about understanding, I think, suffering, and obviously when we see or when we treat people in a clinic, we really, that's really impactful, I think. And although I don't work as a clinician anymore, it's really interesting because I love empathy. It's so powerful, which is, I speak about this in my coaching. And I really feel that empathy is something that bridges gaps, heals wounds, and makes the world better. It's better in so many different ways. For a business, it improves your revenue. And and I don't know. And I guess that's, I guess that's what I want to discuss today, really, just that little story. And the thing is, the lady was so, she seemed uplifted by the conversation. And I think because she was worried about her pet, of course. And I was kind of like, oh, he'll be okay. And we had this chat, And then I felt really happy after this interaction as well. And the research shows that when we have chats with strangers, I've mentioned that many times on the podcast. And why is that? That's because we're meant to share these things with the world. If we are all kinder and more connected, we're going to grow as people in terms of our empathy and otherwise. And that's what life is all about, isn't it? Obviously, that's rhetorical because I know you guys agree with me, which is why you listen to this podcast, because it's all I ever talk about. Because life is about growing, learning, and making the world a better place. And I've said this before about just chatting to neighbours and people around us in our community. And I think it's really important to remember that every encounter is a chance to connect. And I think we've obviously felt that on social media, which obviously is why sometimes it can be to one's detriment, depending on who you're following. But I think it's also important in today's era where we are seeing a genocide that's being streamed literally on our devices. And we've got to do what we can do to connect with those people, even if we can't donate, even if it just seems, I don't know, if it seems that we're powerless. And I don't think that we are powerless. There are things that we can do. Please check, your local country or community for things that you can do, and contacting your sort of government officials and things. But I feel that it is really important, because what kind of world are we building if we just stand by and just let this genocide continue without saying anything, because we are all connected to each other, even if we don't see it. And I think every encounter just, I think, brings that to light. So just wanted to share that with you. So bearing that in mind, until the next episode, when we reconnect, let's all create connection within our community and those around us. And let's not just change lives, but save lives.